Don't make the same mistake here that people make in the New Testament, where Yeshua only mentions 3 or 4 commandments when the young man says, well, which commandments do I need to keep? And he only names a few of them. Okay, so our knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, those are the only few we have to do. He was just he was making a point. See, the ones that are in the 10 commandments and the rest of the 613, etc. He's saying those commandments. And he gives them a few. He says, you get my point? He's not going to sit there and list them all. You are responsible for you. Stop blaming generational stuff. Stop blaming everybody else. And just go look in the mirror and say, I'm responsible for me. Whether I end up where in the place I want to end up or end up in a place I don't want to end up, that's on me. I can't blame my parents. I don't doubt that some of you have had the most atrocious upbringings and have, quote unquote, on a worldly standard, every excuse that you could possibly have that people would say, oh, honey, I understand. I understand. But Yahweh says, no. This is all based on when you're brought to understanding. The people that we're dealing with here should know better. We're talking about now, here's a son who sees. He has an awareness of that his father was doing wrong things. So he's aware, he's responsible for what he's been shown. And he's expected to make the necessary changes. So when he says, cursed are those, or onto so many generations there would be this cursing, is that the person doing the things that are wrong is bringing this on his own family generationally. Not because it's some mystical, magical curse that needs a deliverance ministry, which, by the way, in my opinion, are the worst, most dangerous things that ever existed. You don't have to like that, and you could all write me nasty things, but I've seen more damage done by them than by anybody, because they do things you never see in Scripture. If somebody has any kind of a thing, quote unquote, needing deliverance from, in Scripture, do you ever see anybody telling them, okay, I want you to say this prayer or repeat after me, or is that anywhere in Scripture? No. You see the person working with them, they go ahead and do whatever needs to be done. But what's happening here in Ezekiel 18 is Abba saying, you choose to do things the way you know they're supposed to be and stop being influenced by everybody else. It's on you. You get to choose. You can live if you choose to live. That should be such great news. To know that you don't have to suffer forever because I've had people trying to say, maybe there's just a generational curse in my family. I don't know how to get rid of it. And you know what? Just decide it's going to stop now. That doesn't mean it automatically stops, and then ask the Father for help. Father, help me. I want it to stop now, and I want it to be me. I want to be the one so that the next generation does not have to deal with what I'm dealing with. Let that be me. Let it end here. You might be wondering, I'm trying to understand now, then what did Yeshua do? Because after all, if the Father doesn't make the Son righteous and the Son doesn't make the Father righteous and everybody's responsible for themselves, then what did Yeshua do? Well, guess what he did? He did what was necessary to reconcile because of a covenant breaking. That's a whole different thing. It's not just for forgiveness of sins, it's forgiveness really of a specific thing, breaking of a covenant so the covenant can now be restored. This is the reward. This is what is the gift or the reward that you reap from what you sowed. He says if you sow righteousness, you reap living. You sow wrongness and unrighteousness, you reap death. Sin reaps death, righteousness reaps life. However, life, because of all the sin, because you now deserve to die, is not possible unless there was a salvation thing happening. That's where Yeshua gave his life for the whole world, to make life possible. So, and you say, well, the way of Yahweh is not right. In other words, well, that's not fair. Why do I have to do all that stuff? And by the way, nobody ever rejects all of it. They don't. There's just certain things that they just would rather not do because it doesn't meet without all the lusts and all the things that they want. It conflicts and interferes with, but I like doing this and now I can't. Or I don't like doing that. Why do I have to do that? I mean, I'm always from the school of, so what? That's what I think he says. Well, I'm not sure I want to do that. He's like, okay, don't do it. It's going to have death. That's your choice. What do you think the heart issue was with the one who was doing righteousness and he was doing great and then he started sinning? Well, his heart was for whatever drew him away from righteousness. He wanted the other thing more. He desired the other thing more. I know I've said this like 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 times more. We only do what we want to do. And even when we do what we don't want to do it begrudgingly. We look like we're sucking on a pickle. Make faces. He knows your heart isn't in it when you do all that. This is all about testing your heart. Do you desire him? Do you desire what he wants? Or are you still pushing for your own agenda? This path is the right path. You have messed up. Israel, Ezekiel's been just whacking them hard. He's been just pounding on them. And really, it's the Almighty who's pounding on them. But he's saying, I know I've been hard on you, but you can turn around. You can make teshuvah. You can turn yourself around, and it will be okay. Cast away from you all the transgressions by which you have transgressed, and make for yourselves a new heart. There it is. 31 verses to get to that word. Because you had to know what he was talking about when you got to that verse. I could have just started off with, cast away all your transgressions by which you transgressed and make yourself a new heart. What is he talking about? He's talking about life and death. You needed to know that. He's talking about, don't worry about the backgrounds and everything else. You are responsible for you, and you can change or make for, now notice what it says, make for yourself a new heart. Oh, we've all been told, he's just going to take that stony heart out. He's going to put the one of flesh in. He's going to give us a new heart. He's going to cause you to choose to go down that path. He's not going to wave his magic hand and just make it all happen. He says, make for yourselves a new heart and a new spirit. And a new spirit? Israel had an attitude problem. Hey, what you're saying, Yahweh's wrong. That's not right. That's not fair. No. That's a terrible attitude to approach the creator of the universe with. The right approach is, I don't understand it. Whatever you say, I know it's right. I'm just going to do it because you're right, I'm wrong. That's how we start off. Why do we start off with that? You're right, I'm wrong. Now we can begin. That's the best place to start. Because if you walk in going, well, you're right, but what about me? Someplace I might be right. No, let's just start with you're right, I'm wrong. The only path to life is Torah observance. He gives it to you. That's why the shirts we gave out, right? It says, Torah blesses you, keeps you safe, and transforms you to the image of the Son. And so as you're transformed and being kept safe and you're being blessed, that whole path eventually leads you into life. See, and very often, because you haven't studied enough of the Tanakh, the Old Testament, you are not making the connections that he's expecting the people to make. And that's why we get these great light bulb moments when all of a sudden the connection is made and then actually you're like, whoa, I got it. I see that. That's from over here. He's referring to this. Like when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, that's in Leviticus. It's nothing new. When he said you need to have circumcision of heart, well, that's in the Old Testament too, in several places. And so we have to have those things that our brain goes, well, not our brain, the ruach, which is there to do what? Bring to remembrance, which it can only do if it's already in there. So your job is to put it in. He doesn't want anybody to die. It says in the scriptures, in other places, it is his, easy for me to say, it is his desire that if possible, all men be saved. Doesn't want anybody to die. And he's saying here, why should you die? I'm telling you the path to life. Why should you die?